Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I am Lekan Onanbanjo. The headlines at this hour. Commuters stranded as heavy downpour floods Lagos State. Over 20 civilians killed in suspected terrorist attack in Mali. Egypt's new government takes oath of office before President Al-Sisi. Details to come your way shortly. News Central Now at this hour begins in Nigeria, where the Nigeria Meteorological Agency has predicted thunderstorms and rains for Wednesday to Friday across the country. NiMet's weather outlook released in Abuja predicted morning thunderstorms on Wednesday over parts of Jigawa, Kano, Katsina, Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara, Taraba, and Adamawa states. Thunderstorms are expected over parts of the Federal Capital Territory, Kwara, Kogi, Plateau, Benue, and Niger states in the north-central in the morning. Later in the day, thunderstorms are expected over parts of Plateau, Nasarawa, Niger, Kogi, Kwara, the Federal Capital Territory, and Benue states. According to NiMet, morning rains are expected over parts of Lagos, Ondo, Delta, Ogun, Abia, Rivers, Edo, Akwa Ibom, and Cross River states in the southern region. It anticipated high prospects of continuous rains for Lagos, which might lead to flooding. In the meantime, heavy rainfall in Lagos caused severe flooding in various parts of the city on Wednesday morning, leading to significant traffic jams in Oworo 3rd Mainland Bridge axis. The story was not different. Cars were seen submerged in the floodwaters as they found it difficult driving through it. In Oshodi, the train tracks were not left out. The waters made its smooth glide on the tracks a bit difficult as passengers and pedestrians struggled to find a safe spot for proper movement in the downpour. At Iyanoba area of Lagos State, some residents took advantage of the downpour to make a quick buck as they carried stranded commuters on their back over the flood so as to get to dry ground to meet a shortage of buses and cars. Earlier, our correspondent Bettina Nweli visited some other areas in Lagos State to assess the flooding situation.
You can see the chaos that the rain has caused this morning. There's a lot of flood here and people are trying to navigate their way into work. But if you can see behind me too, this intersection here, we also have LASMA officials who are still doing their job diligently, even under the rain. We can see the truck behind me, the trailer, and the kind of chaos that it's causing for motorists around that region. That's where I am currently. Earlier before now, the video you saw was of the flood at Olokomeji, and it caused traffic from that point on all the way back to Alapere. So Lagos today is not having a very, very good morning, if I may say so. There's loads of floods around Lagos. We also have information that there's also a situation of flood at Sokoto in Lagos State as well. I haven't even talked about the island because I'm very sure that by now all of Lekki down to the stretch of Agundi will also be subject to floods. But the question now on the table is, what is the government doing about it? Even though we've seen some areas on the island where clearing of canals and gutters have begun, which is a little bit helping the flood situation, but we still think that more needs to be done, and fast as well before.
Now, a two-story building has collapsed at 12 Cameroon Street off Iwinla, Mushin in Lagos. According to Dr. Femi Okelsonyitolu, the Permanent Secretary, Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, the building was newly constructed. 7 people, 3 females and 4 males were rescued alive and taken to a nearby hospital for treatment. The agency's search and rescue team has searched the rubble and can confirm that there is no victim underneath the collapsed building. The area has now been cordoned off. We also understand that operations is still ongoing at the sites. In a related development, the Federal Capital Territory Emergency Management Agency has confirmed that no life was lost in the building collapse, which occurred on Monday evening at the Garki area of Abuja. The acting director general of the agency says the four-story building was undergoing renovation at the time of the incidents, which recorded minor injuries sustained by 3 workers who have subsequently been treated. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
The spokesperson of the FCT Police Command on site of the building collapse with other security and emergency agencies as they rescue several trapped under the debris of the collapsed 4-story building in Abuja. Among the rescued victims, only 3 were injured. Although they appeared to still be in shock, some were able to give account of the incident.
Around 8 o'clock, we did level 4. So that time we did cook with gas. We did cook something for fire now. So now the thing question. So now this my brother go say what they happen for Abuja. Now I tell us I don't know. Now you go look at in the low the thing in the form. Now my brother say more run this is the follow. Now my brother come jump for that level 4. You jump for that, you follow top. Now if you must follow you, now you go follow that. I don't know what thing they think will happen now.
Just 5 persons were in the building, and we were able to rescue those 3. Then NEMA were informed, and development control as well. They came in that night, and search party continued. As you can see, we are still searching for possible if there are any other persons, but from what the other victims said, there were just 5 of them in the building.
Officials of the Federal Capital Emergency Management Agency blame the contractor for ignoring directives from the Abuja Development Control Authority to stop work on the building.
As soon as we noticed what happened, we swung into action and we were able to rescue 3 people alive. They only sustained minor injuries, some bruises, and we took them to the hospital. They are all out of the hospital. In actual sense, they didn't spend up to 2 hours in the hospital, and they were back to the site. All other construction workers were out of the building when the building collapsed. Development control always mark the building and ask them to stop. But there are times that when we wake up in the morning, overnight, they continue with the work. If you were here before we brought down the fence, you would have seen the mark of development control.
The agency expressed its determination to clamp down on violators of construction codes in the capital city. In Abuja for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Let's now talk about Nigeria's oil sector. The Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited says it has declared a state of emergency on oil production. It said the move was geared towards increasing Nigeria's crude oil production and growing its reserves. Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPCL, Kyari, disclosed this in a keynote address at the opening of the 23rd edition of the Nigeria Oil and Gas Conference and Exhibition Week in Abuja on Tuesday. According to Kyari, a detailed analysis of assets revealed that Nigeria could conveniently produce 2 million barrels of crude oil per day without deploying new rigs. He adds that the war will help NNPCL and its partners to speedily clear all identified obstacles to effective and efficient production, such as delays in procurement processes, which have become a challenge in the industry. And joining me on the news to discuss this is an energy consultant, Seun Dania. Seun, thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
So does Nigeria have the capacity to produce 2 million barrels of crude oil per day without deploying new rigs, and given all the existential threats in and around the producing states?
Technically, yes. And we've seen over some years, I think as far back 2005, before that, Nigeria was producing well over 6.1 million barrels a day. So as we are now, without any reduction, I believe that most of the oil fields have actually increased their production. And if not for the security situation in the Niger Delta region, pipeline vandalism, oil theft, and the cases of illegal refineries that significantly hamper our production capacity. Nigeria definitely can produce, and we are able to get, a lot more than that. I believe that even with OPEC, we demanded for slightly over 2 million, and yeah, we have the potential, evidently.
So with the declaration of the state of emergency in the sector, do you think finally we are going to start seeing efforts in putting an end to the issues around pipeline vandalism that you mentioned, oil thefts, illegal refineries, even the completion of modular refineries?
It's a step in the right direction. However, I mean, like the CEO said, they know the people, they know what to do, they know who they are fighting, they know who, they know what the war is against. But why haven't they done it all this while? So it's a step in the right direction. It's not a magic bullet. They have to, how well they successfully, initiate the things that are going to solve these challenges that's now left to them. Now, it depends on how serious. Most of the time, we have always known these challenges. It has been whether there's been the political will to actually execute and ensure that we eradicate these things from our country and make sure that livelihoods of people are well protected.
Now you will remember, Sean, you remember that Nigeria's businessman Aliko Dangote specifically spoke about mafia in that particular sector, actually trying as much as possible to sabotage efforts to improve the values of that particular sector. So do you think that those people that constitute the mafia are above the law or within the ambit of what the Nigerian government can actually deal with?
Nobody is above the law, After God, it's government, So the government knows what they are fighting. They have an idea. So let's even say we want to blame it on past administrations. We have a new administration that's just about a year old now. And whatever cabal or mafia that it is that's within the sector, it's about being able to have negotiations with them if necessary, or then if those negotiations cannot, because at the end of the day, all these people, mafia is you and I, is different businessmen who are just trying to protect their interests at whatever cost necessary and have found themselves on the wrong side of the law. We cannot allow over 200 million Nigerians to suffer because of a few select people who want to make money. Right now, we see that people are suffering, things are difficult. So yes, if Aliko Dangote is saying it, that's because he is also beginning to experience it as he's new in this industry. But definitely with political will and commitment from the government, we're able to eradicate mafia or whatever they call themselves, cabals, whatever.
Well, we've said that over and over again, but we've not actually seen anything in that regards. Now, I'm sure, let me ask you, the NNPCL chief also mentioned delays in procurement processes, and that would mean cumbersome procedures, bureaucratic red tape, corruption, inefficient allocation of resources, among others. Now, the question is, the delay is on the part of who? Is it the government or the entity itself that has often been accused of carrying out operations shrouded in secrecy?
So this delay in procurement process, is a result of a complex interplay of factors. So first, the bureaucratic red tape, the corruption, inefficient allocation of resources, the lack of transparency that comes from the NNPC from the get-go. Yes, both the government and NNPC bear some responsibility. However, the NNPC has the responsibility of providing transparency and accountability. Now the NNPC is a private company, so to say. Now it's NNPC Limited. They owe it to their stakeholders to actually report information, and of course the government and we Nigerians through the government are part of these stakeholders. So evidently they owe it to us to provide us all the information that is required as necessary, to ensure that we know what's going on with our resources.
All right, let's quickly do, let's look at it from the external factors now. Global oil prices of crude have spiked due to geopolitical tensions and beckoning hurricane seasons. So even if Nigeria is able to ramp up productions, won't there be export disruptions due to these external shocks? Or can Nigeria still find markets for its crude?
Of course, despite all the tension and whatnot, Nigeria's crude oil is light sweet crude, and it means it's in high demand globally. For us to maximize our market potential, we need to be able to address our production challenges. and ensure that there's stable and reliable supply. See, most of these refineries, when they start, they're very difficult to stop, right? And when you stop a refinery or a plant, it takes a long time to get it back up. So all these refineries require steady and reliable supply. That is why most refineries will go and shop here, shop around. But if Nigeria is able to fix our internal problems and guarantee certain refineries reliable and stable supply, everybody will be queuing up for Nigeria's crude. And let's not forget that Aliko Dangote has built one of the largest refineries in the world, right here in Nigeria. So do we still need to be talking about export? We need to first be thinking about how we ensure that we supply that refinery enough of this crude oil for local production, local consumption, and after Nigeria, West Africa, and the whole sub-Saharan Africa, before we then start thinking about exporting to other countries. There's enough money to be made locally.
Well, you may need to hold IOCs responsible if we're not able to expand that value chain. Shondania, energy consultant, thank you so much for
Why would you hold IOCs responsible? They're doing their business.
Well, of course, I agree with you. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're watching News Central now. We'll go on a very short break. When we return, we'll bring you more stories. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. We now tell you that the European Union has announced plans to strengthen economic ties with Nigeria and attract new investments through a sustainable investment facilitation agreement. Now, this was made known by the European Union ambassador to Nigeria and the ECOWAS, Samuela Isopi, at the 9th edition of the Nigeria EU Business Forum in Abuja. News Central's Joshua Imarai has more in this report.
The 9th Nigeria EU Business Forum, themed Investing in Jobs and a Sustainable Future, took place in Abuja, the nation's capital. The forum brought together prominent business leaders and industry experts. The representative of Nigeria's Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment urged participants to capitalize on the opportunity to identify solutions to the challenges facing the country's trade and investment sector.
It is imperative that we work towards addressing challenges and identifying innovative solutions to enhance the business environment. By leveraging on each other's strengths and fostering mutual cooperation, we can unlock new opportunities for trade and investment that will benefit our countries, our economies, and the livelihoods of our people.
Also in attendance was the European Union ambassador to Nigeria and ECOWAS, who announced the EU's plan to improve economic relationship with Nigeria and bring in new investments.
And we are developing several training and fellowship programs and supporting private sector developments, in particular tech enterprises, via easing access to finance. All this is done in a Team Europe manner with the EIB, with other banks from the European Union.
Stakeholders at the event urged the federal government to implement policies that will attract foreign direct investment into the nation's economy.
So what we need to do is to ensure that we put policies in place that will motivate capital holders to feel confident in investing in our economy.
If anybody is interested in foreign direct investment, you have to start with NACIMA, because we are also part of the network of 177 chambers of commerce in the World Chamber of Commerce Conference. And that is why most times, and unfortunately, when our public officers travel, instead of going with the private sector, they go as government officials. The government does not do business.
The European Union ambassador to Nigeria and ECOWAS also commended Nigeria for paying up the backlog of debts owed to European airlines to the tune of about $850 million. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
Away from that, Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, says civil-military relations form a key factor in peacekeeping and as such cannot be overemphasized. General Lagbaja was speaking in Mangu district of Mangu local government area during the commissioning of projects as part of activities to mark the 2024 Nigerian Army Day celebration hosted by the 3 Division Maxwell Kogi Cantonment in Jos. News Central's Chizoba Nyongwe who is on the entourage of the Army Chief, reports that the commission projects include 3 renovated and fully equipped classrooms, 1 computer room, new convenience facilities, and motorized 10,000-litre capacity water boreholes in Mangu District, Mangu local government area. Now, bringing you all the stories, the Ogun State Police Command says 4 abducted travelers on the Shagamu-Ijebu Expressway on Sunday have regained freedom. The spokesman for the State Command, Omolola Odutola, disclosed this in a statement on Wednesday. Odutola said those rescued along Ogere axis of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway by the anti-kidnapping team of the State Police Command included a Nigerian and 3 Indians. On Monday, the Commissioner of Police, Abiodun Alamutu, ordered the anti-kidnapping units to launch a manhunt against the hoodlums who attacked and kidnapped the travelers. The gunmen were said to have ambushed the travelers between Shagamu Area Command of the Nigeria Police and Ilishon Township. And now to updates on the cholera outbreak in Nigeria. The Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Dr. Jide Idris, has said a total of 2,102 suspected cholera cases and 63 deaths have been recorded across 33 states and 122 local government areas in the country. Idris stated this in Abuja on Tuesday while giving an update on the campaign against the cholera outbreak as the National Youth Service Corps introduced strict camp guidelines with the commencement of the 2024 Batch B Stream 1 orientation course. The orientation course runs for 21 days, equipping and training the eligible participants of the 1-year mandatory service. The Director General of the NYSC, Brigadier General Yushau Ahmed, has issued strict instructions to camp coordinators and officials to prevent the outbreak of cholera in orientation camps nationwide. Cholera, a highly contagious food and waterborne disease, is caused by the ingestion of the organism Vibrio cholerae in contaminated water and food. Now, Nigeria's House of Representatives says that it has identified a total of 1,310 ministries, departments and agencies of government which needs to be scrapped or merged to resolve issues of duplication of functions and inefficiency. This was made known by the chairman of the House Special Committee on Restructuring of Government Agencies and Commissions. Idong Joseph reports.
The recent announcement by the federal government to implement the Stephen Oronsaye report, expected to reduce the cost of governance, has recently generated diverse reactions. The report, which was published in 2012, highlighted several recommendations aimed at restructuring government agencies to enhance efficiency and reduce cost.
The fact that the Oronsaye report has been approved and adopted by Council today does not mean that people will lose their jobs. All those who are employed, whether they have been moved, subsumed, or scrapped, will find accommodation within relevant government agencies. Nobody is going to lose his job.
Mr. Speaker, I seek the leave of the House.
Nigeria's parliament has joined the conversation, saying it is important to revisit the recommendations as well as other white papers to ensure they align with current realities and changing needs of society.
The world is evolving rapidly, and it is crucial that our government agencies and commissions are structured in a way that enables them to deliver on their mandates effectively and efficiently. Through this review process, we aim to identify redundancies, duplications, inefficiencies, and areas of improvement within the federal government agencies and commissions.
Lawmakers say they will conduct a thorough review and called on stakeholders to engage with the parliament to make inputs that will improve the process.
And we are now open to taking memoranda from all concerned ministries, individuals, departments, agencies, parastatals, and everyone.
They add that the essence of the review is to ensure that the report, which was received by the federal government about 12 years ago, when implemented, will meet current realities. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
In another development, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has flagged off the construction of the Kubo bus terminal in Abuja. The minister says that the project will be completed in 15 months and assured all present that the project will not adorn the landscape as an abandoned project because the funds for the project have already been set aside. He adds that the project is proof of the federal government's commitment to ensuring that citizens have access to the best and most modern infrastructure. Amadine Uyi reports.
The flag-off ceremony for the construction of the Kubo bus terminal in Abuja.
The development of this bus terminal is more than just a construction project. It is a testament to the good works and commitment of you and the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I can tell you that your efforts to modernize Abuja and bring progress to the downtrodden, this is one of those realizations.
This project, we are going to have all the essential elements that make it safe. You can travel at any part of the day. So you will have here very big bus terminal where people can be sheltered. You will have CCTV, which will provide security. We are going to have lift and elevator. We are going to take care of the disabled people as well. As part of the facility here, you also have retail. Like you go abroad, anywhere there's transport system, there is always retail service. People can buy, you can shop. All those are the complement of service that we're going to provide here.
The minister, while assuring that provisions have been made to ensure that the project will not be starved of funds, says it will be completed at its stipulated time.
This is not a project where you say that no adequate funding. No. And it has been our practice that projects that do not have adequate budget would not go and embark on such a project. None of our projects will be an abandoned project. None of our projects will exceed 15 months to 2 years, none.
The terminal will serve as a vital hub that will facilitate the efficient movement of people, serve as a vital hub that will ensure traffic decongestion and also improve the overall quality of life for residents and visitors alike.
He also adds that the management of the terminal will not be business as usual.
NiMet is not a good business person. If you want the project to die, the day you finish it, you say, a transport secretary, come and carry. Then forget it. It's gone. The money you have wasted, the money you have spent here will be a wasted money. So their own is only to supervise, but not to operate.
The terminal is expected to be completed in 15 months. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Coming up on the news, more than 20 civilians killed in suspected terrorist attack in Mali. We'll bring you details after the show timeout. Please stay with us. The news continues in West Africa, where provincial authority officials say at least more than 20 civilians were killed in an attack in central Mali on Monday that was attributed to terrorists. These deaths are the most recent in the volatile Sahel region, according to an official speaking on condition of anonymity on Wednesday in the village of Jigumbombo, a few dozen kilometers from the town of Bandiangara. At least 21 civilians have died. Now, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa and his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden have committed to advancing the relationship between the two countries. According to South Africa's presidency, the two leaders held a telephone discussion on Tuesday evening. The presidency said Biden congratulated Ramaphosa on both his re-election as president and the successful formation of the government of national unity. Meanwhile, Biden pledged that the U.S. will work closely with the 7th administration in South Africa on key areas including economic growth, job creation, social development and climate change, as well as South Africa's presidency of the G20 in 2025. He also confirmed that he would visit South Africa and participate in the G20 meetings. To discuss this further, I'm joined by a senior researcher at Southern Africa Liaison Office, Lwazi Somya. Lwazi, thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Thank you for having me.
So what does it mean for South Africa to get continued support from the U.S.? And what are the key areas that you think that these two countries can collaboratively work together to bring about some sort of transformation for the country?
As you acknowledged earlier on in your presentation, the telephone call was largely centered around mutual cooperation in terms of job creation, industrialization, creating a social safety net, along with issues around the G20, which South Africa will be hosting next year, which the American government regards as a very, very critical multilateral institution. As we remember, the G20 itself is on its third iteration under the IPSA grouping, the India, Brazil, and South Africa grouping. And the hopes of the Global South is that from the South African G20 summit, one will be able to translate the aspirations of the Global South onto the G20 platform. We also acknowledge there have been tensions between South Africa and the United States, especially regarding allegations by Ambassador Ruben Brigitte last year concerning the Lady R shipment to Russia. However, those tensions have been leveraged, have been cleared away due to various diplomatic engagements between South Africa's former Minister of Foreign International Relations and Cooperation, Dr. Naledi Pandor, and the South African government and under President Cyril Ramaphosa. So this Government of National Unity, along with the various areas of cooperation between South Africa and the USA, will prove very critical in terms of addressing the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality that exist within South Africa, as highlighted by President Cyril Ramaphosa's Government of National Unity statement, along with his opening remarks upon his inauguration as President of the Republic of South Africa.
Okay, having said that, how does this call now reflect on the current state of U.S.-Africa relations under the Biden administration? Are there any changes in terms of tone or maybe approach compared to previous administrations? Remember how it played out with the former president of the U.S., that is Donald Trump.
Yes, for South Africa, the U.S. partnership is very critical, especially as South Africa has adopted a non-aligned posture onto the international stage, especially when relating to the situation of Russia-Ukraine. Whilst there were disagreements about South Africa's engagement on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, we have seen greater synergies and greater understanding between South Africa and the United States on South Africa's approach towards the conflict. We also see that there is now beginning of emerging consensus on the necessity for dialogue amongst the different partners. And this is why we've seen multiple envoys from South Africa to engage with the US Congress, which allows South Africa for further extension into the AGOA agreement and therefore strengthening the bilateral agreement. With the Government of National Unity, according to the statement of intent, we see no departure from historic foreign policy priorities by the South African government under this new arrangement. And we see North-South cooperation still remains one of the critical priority areas which the Government of National Unity under Cyril Ramaphosa will be embarking upon.
Oh, of course, you know that South Africa is part of the BRICS. So what implications might this call have for South Africa's relations with other major powers now? We're talking about China, Europe, and Russia.
So South Africa's position as a non-aligned state actor, along with BRICS, trying to find the lowest common denominator issues around the international financial system, does not beg to create tensions amongst various BRICS actors and partners. As we have seen, various BRICS member countries such as India, Brazil, China, and even Russia itself still continue some level of diplomatic relation with the United States. And therefore, we do not see much of a departure from the historic relations by South Africa with other BRICS member nations. However, the United States is keenly observing an eye on the developments within BRICS, especially relating to its potential continued expansion and the incoming partners within the multilateral body. However, South Africa has clearly stated that its foreign policy sovereignty, along with its non-aligned posture and commitment to progressive internationalism, will not waver even at the transition of the current government, along with its continued relations with the United States of America, Russia, and any other international partners that we might see in the international arena.
Okay, Lwazi Somya, thank you so much for helping us understand this. We appreciate your contribution.
Thank you so much.
We now take you to the north of Africa to tell you that Egypt's new cabinet has been sworn in before President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi at the Al-Ittihadiyya Palace in the capital, Cairo. Before the swearing-in ceremony, CC promoted Abdul Magid Sakir to the rank of Lieutenant General and appointed him as the Minister of Defense and Military Production, succeeding Mohammed Zaki. The new cabinet is headed by Prime Minister Mustafa Madbudi, who has been in the post since 2018. Comprising 30 ministers, the new government saw the merging of some ministries and the introduction of new ones, especially the economic portfolios. On Sunday, the Egyptian president said the new government's top priority is to mitigate the impact of rising prices and create more job opportunities. Still ahead on the news. Former UK Prime Minister makes surprise appearance at Tory campaign. We'll bring you more on this and other stories in a short while. Do stay with us. From other continents, we tell you that on the penultimate day of campaigning in the UK's general election, former Prime Minister Boris Johnson made a surprise appearance for the first time in support of the current Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. Sunak was a member of the group which helped remove Johnson from power following the Partygate scandal, in which he was found to have broken his own COVID lockdown rules. Until now, in the campaign, Johnson had only supported individual candidates via video messages. Speaking at the event in London, he says he came back to warn against a Labour Party supermajority.
I was glad when Rishi asked me to help. Of course I couldn't say no. And I'm here for one reason and one reason only, which is the same reason as all of you, all of us are here. We're here because we love our country. And whatever our differences, they are utterly trivial by comparison with the disaster we may face if these so-called opinion polls are right. None of us can sit back as a Labour government prepares to use a sledgehammer majority to destroy so much of what we have achieved, what you have achieved.
Well, first of all, I've got to thank Boris for being here. Thank him for his support. Isn't it great? Isn't it great to have our Conservative family united, my friends? Yeah. Now, Boris is right to say now is the time for all Conservatives to come together to deny Labour that supermajority that Keir Starmer craves. We have 48 hours to save Britain from the danger of a Labour government.
For more on this, I'm joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, it's the last day of campaigning, and of course we see, the members of the Tory being a happy bunch right there. How have the various party leaders been pushing for the votes?
Well, you're right. The Conservatives painting a picture of a happy bunch last night at that rally that Boris Johnson attended. Notable, actually, that Boris Johnson has been on holiday for the vast majority of this campaign by the Conservative Party and the other parties involved in this election. He didn't appear on stage with Rishi Sunak. They didn't embrace, they didn't shake hands, and Boris Johnson didn't endorse him in any way, shape or form. He didn't refer to the job that Rishi Sunak had done at all. So it was less about Boris Johnson supporting Rishi Sunak and more about Boris Johnson supporting the Conservative Party and also aligning himself for Friday for what happens after the votes have been cast and the probable likelihood that the Conservative Party are now in the opposition. Now, Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer were both on morning television this morning trying to get out the vote. Keir Starmer, on a campaign visit to Wales, said that Tories are trying to get people to stay home on polling day, saying that their messaging was about voter suppression. Rishi Sunak playing down those remarks and insisting that the Conservative Party are still fighting for every single vote. Now, Ed Davey, the Liberal Democrat leader, said that his party is on target to overtake the SNP in Scotland and to have the third largest majority in the Commons, but he hasn't put a ceiling on their ambitions. They could end up as the second party if people really don't come out to vote for the Conservatives. So all the parties and all the party leaders absolutely pushing for these last votes, every single one of them being vitally important to them on this last day of campaigning.
Well, the intra and inter-party play seems quite interesting, Afia. Another thing that's interesting is that there are claims that the Labour is heading for a supermajority. So how likely is that?
Yeah, well, this term supermajority is one that's really been born from the Conservatives, and it's been in a lot of their advertising, about 48 times over the past week or so. Rishi Sunak also tweeted today, stop the Labour supermajority, get out and vote, something along those lines. But the fact is that with this government, with the winner of this election, they only need to get more than half of the votes. So you need to get 326 seats out of 650. That's just over half of the vote for you to have that majority in Parliament and for you to have the mandate to do whatever it is you want to do as your party on your own without forming a coalition. So as long as whoever wins gets the 326, they'll have the majority. I mean, if they get to 400, 500, it doesn't really make any difference to their ability to make laws and make powers in Parliament. But yes, it will be impressive and it will be, quote unquote, a super majority. But that doesn't really have any bearing on whichever party gets into Parliament and their ability to govern. As long as they get just over half of the votes, then they will have that clear majority without a coalition and will be able to do what they need to do in Parliament.
Okay, so generally you've been out talking to people today. Tell us, what's the mood like in the country?
Well, yes, it has been 6 weeks, 6 really frenetic and frantic weeks of campaigning since this election was called by Rishi Sunak. And from what I'm hearing, people that I spoke to today, is that most people are voting for Labour or are undecided. That seems to be the general consensus of people I spoke to. Now, bearing in mind that I do live in London, and the capital is quite a Labour-centric area in some parts. And so, yes, today a lot of people telling me they're voting Labour, a lot of people using the words integrity, saying that the current government doesn't have integrity, and a lot of people saying that they want change. That is the biggest message that I got today speaking to people, is that people want change. But it seems to be from people I spoke to that they're voting Labour or they are undecided.
Big fight down to the wire, I must say. Ify Hagen, thank you so much for sharing this with us. Talking business now. In an attempt to renegotiate the terms of a historic deal, South Africa pledged to reduce its dependency on coal in return for financing. President Cyril Ramaphosa's administration is pressing for renegotiation of an agreement with Climate Investment Funds, an organization affiliated with the World Bank, to shut down 3 coal-fired power facilities in the upcoming years. Government advisors claim that these ESCOM-owned and operated plants rank among the worst pollutants in the nation. The President's Office department in charge of the project is requesting that the government of South Africa adopts an adjusted approach to the program, with the decommissioning date for 3 power stations moved to the end of March 2030. In sports, the Nigeria Super Falcons, led by head coach Randy Waldrum, have finalized the squad for the 2024 Women's Olympic Football Tournament in France. Captain Rasheedat Ajibade, goalkeeper Chiamaka Nnadozie, defender Osinachi Ohale, and forward Asisat Oshoala headlined the team, along with 14 other players, including defenders Oluwatosin Demehin and Michelle Alozie, midfielders Deborah Abiodun, Halimatu Ainde, Christy Uchebe, and Tony Payne, including forwards, namely Esther Okoronkwo, Chiwendu Hezio, and Uchenna Kano. The The squad, comprising both home-based and overseas players, will depart from Abuja to Sevilla, Spain on Thursday for a 2-week training camp ahead of their departure to France on July 18. Nigeria, 9-time African champions, will face Brazil, Spain and Japan in the group stage, marking their return to the Olympic tournament after 16 years. Now, Spain has approved a €7.5 million grant to ensure equal prize money for both Olympic and Paralympic athletes, marking a significant increase for Paralympians compared to Tokyo 2020. The decision by the Spanish Council of Ministers means Paralympic athletes will now receive 54% more than before for each medal won, bringing their rewards in line with those of the Olympic counterparts. Previously, Olympic gold medalists received €94,000, silver €48,000 and bronze €30,000 at Tokyo 2020, with differing amounts for team sports like tennis and table tennis. The new funding eliminates this disparity, setting a unified standard across both committees and recognizing achievements equally across all disciplines. And that's all on the news at this hour. But before we go, we take a look at some of our top stories. Commuters stranded as heavy downpour floods Lagos State. Over 20 civilians killed in suspected terrorist attack in Mali. And finally, we told you that Egypt's new government takes oath of office before President Al-Sisi. You can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. And you can also watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekan Onanbanjo.